Welcome to another episode of Hey John, and today we're going to answer the question, if I had to do it all over again, would I still buy this Silverado EV LT?
Hey guys, this is part 2 of our Silverado EV. Please like and subscribe to make sure that you don't miss any of the other episodes of this review. Thanks and have a great day.
Well, I purchased this truck, the Silverado EV LT, almost a year ago in Tacoma, Washington, and I live in Northern California. So I literally drove it off the lot and took it on what would it be, about a 600-mile road trip, leaving the lot and driving back to far Northern California. And I have to tell you, the range on this thing is so nice. This truck gets over 422 miles on a charge, that on that first drive back, I had to stop and get stuff to eat or restroom breaks or whatever long before the truck ever needed to take a stop. Now, after driving this truck for, well over 22,000 miles at this point in time, and almost 12 months, not quite, I'm gonna answer the question of would I buy it again? Okay, so let's talk about some of the pros and cons, but while we're doing it, let's take a ride. So as you can see, as I said earlier, we've got over 22,000 miles on this truck, almost 23. We've owned it for almost a year, and it still drives and acts like new. It's still comfortable like new. It's just been a really good investment in a truck. So if you're looking for an EV truck and you need to be able to haul stuff, a lot of stuff, this is the one to do. Or if you need to haul stuff longer distances, this is still the one that can haul stuff the longest. And again, you can even get a better range than what I get with this if you get like the work truck with the really big battery in it. The Silverado EV is probably one of the most underrated, unrecognized EVs out there. I mean, it seems everybody knows what a Cybertruck is and stuff like that. A lot of people know what a Rivian is. Maybe not as many people know what a Ford Lightning is, but if they're into EVs, they probably do. I still today, a year after owning this, I get people certainly on a weekly basis walking up to me in parking lots saying, "Oh, what is that? And tell me about it," that type of stuff. So a lot of people don't even know, the general public, I guess, don't even know that Silverado has an EV pickup truck, which is a real shame because this truck, as I've said again and again, is really probably the best EV truck currently on the market. Now that may change over time, and certainly I think the Rivian is it's an okay truck. They just seem to have had a lot more software issues and stuff than what I would like to have in a truck. Now, it's not to say that this truck hasn't been perfect. I've mentioned about the radio problem, and I've even had some high voltage errors pop up, which have all been resolved with a simple reboot of the truck. And the Chevy GM folks have continued to make improvements to the software, both internally, which I can't really speak a lot to, but externally, like when I did get this back after some updates, and even after some of the over-the-air updates, I've noticed little changes in the presentation of the dash or how things work. Or, for instance, when I first got the truck, the app for the truck was pretty clunky, quite frankly. And they have made great improvements to that so that the app for the truck actually works pretty well. I use it almost every morning to start the truck, to precondition it, to warm it up, especially during the winter months because of where I live, and it's 20 degrees or 19 degrees or whatever outside. Not as cold as some folks have to deal with, but cold enough that you just don't want to have to go get into that thing. And as you can see here, I'm getting pop-ups in the car. It's attached to my phone, and those will pop up on the screen. So, it's got your standard, and it supports multiple people, multiple phones and stuff. One thing I noticed very recently, a recent improvement that they made, let's see if I can get to it. Here, I'll bring this up. I'll turn the radio on briefly. And then if I adjust the volume now on the radio, it comes up with a gear icon, which if you press, now you have a more direct way to get to the different volumes, ring volumes, phone volumes, etc. Whereas before you had to go dig deep down into the menus. So that's a real nice improvement that they've made to the system just recently. They also, with a recent update, changed some of the dash settings. I'll try to get some close-ups here. The dash settings, they do let you, there's like 4 different general settings, and you can kind of pick and choose how you want your dash to look, and then you can customize it. In my case, I have my tire pressure over on the left-hand side. You can put your energy information. There's numerous options you can take to put stuff on your dash. And if you want, you can even have one of the options for the dash is you can actually have a copy of the map right up here, so you don't even have to look to the side to see the map. It'll literally be on your dash right in front of you. So GM's done a pretty good job there. Matter of fact, I was driving a Tesla the other day, Model 3, relatively new Model 3. It was in a rental fleet. We were in Southern California. And I have to say, I actually like the map better in the GM. And I think the main reason for is, at least in the Tesla, when you're in navigation mode, it just wipes out all of the street names. And maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I like to have the street names for reference. Matter of fact, there were numerous times in Southern California where we were driving and we would come up on a road that kind of had, like a Y-type intersection. And in some cases, the navigation would say, veer to the left. Well, there's actually 2 streets to the left, and it's like, well, which one do you actually take? I've never ran into that type of problem with the GM Nav, which is using Google, versus the Tesla stuff. It'll get you to point A to point B, but this using the Google, I don't know if it just felt more comfortable because I'm used to using Google. I don't know, but I would say that's a win for GM over the Tesla mapping system that they use. Now, obviously, Tesla's full self-driving is ahead of all other car manufacturers. But on a side note, I will tell you, if you're in a rental car, a rental Tesla, and you try full self-driving, make sure it's been updated to the very latest release. The rental car we had did not have the latest release, and when we tested it out, it wanted to stop in the middle of intersections in green lights and didn't stop at red lights, things like that. It was really not ready for prime time. Not sure I believe it was a beta version. I think I might even have a screenshot of it. If I do, I'll throw it up here just for kicks type of thing. So anyhow, another pro for this truck is it's easy to get in and out of. And for someone like me, I'm 6'2", a little over 200 pounds. Like most guys my age and size, I got a bad back. So trying to fit into a sedan of any sort and like a Tesla, I really have to work at it. I got to bend my body more than I want to fit through the door to get in. Like the Tesla Model 3, it was great to drive it once you got in, but getting in and out of it was a royal pain. Again, another reason why I went for a truck-based EV is I didn't want to have to fight my body getting in and out of the truck. And I don't have to. With this truck, you actually step up into the truck and step down out of it. So you're not having to bend down to the ground and kind of, either slide your rear end first or something like that to get in it. Another plus for this is it's very easy to get in and out of. And the back seat has lots of room too. Probably some of the best leg room of all of the trucks, period. It helps that it's a flat floorboard in the back, right? You don't have a drive shaft going through there anymore. So it's flat. You can put lots of boxes and stuff in the back seat. And in this truck, the back seats fold back, so you have a nice full area to put boxes if you don't want them to be in the bed for some reason, weather or whatever the case might be. And again, even with a 6'2" person driving, another 6'2" person can easily fit in the back. I'll try to find a clip I did at one point that shows me climbing in the back seat of this thing with the seat adjusted for me driving. And so I just got out and got in the back, and it's like, no problem type of thing. My brother owns the Ford Lightning, and I have ridden in the back seat of that one, and I can tell you it's okay, but it doesn't have quite the same amount of leg room as this truck does in the back seat. The other thing is this has a slightly bigger bed than the Ford, and I think slightly bigger bed than almost any of the other EVs, if I recall right. It's very much, almost a standard 6-foot bed. It's a couple inches shy, but it does, in this case, this one comes with the special Chevy tailgate that you can flip down. It has the little thing that will flip up, so you can put a sheet of plywood back there and not have it slide out on you. So that's really handy as well. And again, going back to the comfort, we're driving 65, 70 miles an hour down a country road, and literally it's easy peasy going. One of the cons on this truck when we're talking about driving is the fact that I don't have their Super Cruise feature on this, because this was the basic, and quite frankly, I personally wasn't ready for self-driving stuff. Although I have in recent months gone into some self-driving cars, and they're kind of fun, so I'm getting used to it. Maybe eventually I'll get there. But this car just has your basic cruise control, or this truck, and the one thing that they certainly could do better on, maybe they need an extra camera or something, is when you put it in lane mode, it does what everybody calls ping-ponging. So it literally will bounce between the center line and the white line when you put lane centering on. So it's not lane centering, it's lane, it tries to keep you in your lane, but it doesn't try to keep you in the center of your lane. So that I almost never turn that feature on. Actually, it's a separate feature you can turn on down at the very bottom set of switches on the dash, and I leave that off 99% of the time, other than if I'm on a long freeway stretch, I'll turn it on to kind of assist me. But as you can see up here, I live in the mountains, lots of turns and roads. And in this case, as you can see, no lines on the road or anything like that. So it's not super helpful. As far as energy efficient, the regen capability of this truck is excellent. I drive 40 miles one way to work, and and 25 of those miles, at least 25, maybe 29, I should check, is downhill from up here in the area where my house is, going down the hill. And when I get to the bottom of the hill, I am 29 miles later, I'm at the same state of charge as when I started. So the regen capability is excellent. And actually, sometimes it may even be 1% higher, which is kind of cool, right? You leave home and you actually have more electricity when we get down there. Now, coming up the hill, it is a heavy truck, so it uses probably twice as much coming back up the hill. So it does balance out, but I just trying to point out the regen capability of this truck is very, very good.
Hey guys, as we were recording this video, we realized that it was getting really long and we didn't want to make you sit through hours of review. So we've broken it up into multiple parts. And if you like and subscribe, you will get notified as each part of the review comes out. So please do that so you don't miss any of the great details, and have a great day. Thank you very much.